Experience is always better in a group. The Christian experience doubly so. We are just a group of gamers that love to talk about life, God, and video games in no particular order. So whether you're a newbie or a grizzled agent like us, we want to help each other roll the level.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Roll the Level, where we are going to have a conversation about life, God, and video games in no particular order. And it is I'm wanting to say it's a sad day, but it's not really a sad day but it's the last episode of the season. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, but I have with me my two fantastic friends, Matt and Sarah. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I am pretty great.
Nice. You're pretty great.
I'm going to go with that today.
Nice. I like it.
Well, I'm so glad to have you back because I feel like the last couple of times that we've tried to record, you've been sick, and
oh man, I had a lung infection.
Yeah, I like.
No,
she had the black lung.
Yeah, so I was totally just out of it, and the only energy I could muster was taking my kid to school and bringing him home. That was it. Otherwise, I was in bed.
well, we're glad you're feeling better. Glad to have you back with us.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, Matt, I am always glad to talk to you too. So I know that you have already had at least one cup of coffee this morning.
I've counted two.
This is actually I'm like 3/4 of the way through cup 2.
Okay.
So it's good. But arguably at the time of recording, it's almost noon. So that's actually pretty weak for me. I usually have like 3 or 4 by noon. So
we're slowing you down.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's been a good morning of discussion. We typically record first thing in the morning, but we had a really good discussion pre-recording this morning, which took more time than planned. But
which actually changed the thing that we were going to talk about today,
which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is cool. But I'm doing really well. I want to share a very, very, very short story just about how crazy cool my job is.
Go for it.
I have I mentioned this briefly. I started a new church there not too long ago, and I have probably one of the most unique jobs ever. I am the keeper of keys and grounds, which we used an official letterhead at one point as my title. So I've totally convinced them that's my title. But anyway, but I do have this really unique job where I take care of our facilities and our volunteers, and so I just get to love on them and invest in them. But my job is really odd. Like my yesterday was crazy. I was on the road by 7 a.m. and drive an hour and a half to go buy sea cans or shipping crates, as some would call them, for storage because we didn't have storage for our church. So that took me till 11. At 11, I got back and had to fix the elevator pit in our church. So I spent almost 2 hours mortaring in some cracks in the foundation work. And then I got cleaned up fast enough so that I could go hold a newborn baby in the afternoon and be a part of praying for that baby. So I just have the weirdest job. And as I'm holding this little 6 pound, 11 ounce, 20-inch bundle of joy as he's kind of nodding out sleep and going, man, God, that's crazy. You're just crazy. But it's pretty awesome. So anyway, I'm doing really well. I just have one of those days of just really appreciating where God has brought me to. And part of that is what he's brought me through, but where he's brought me to, and so it's good. It's a good day. Good day.
That's awesome because it really does. It plays into where we're going with the conversation here.
It's true.
Here today. So we're going to start this off with a quick question of have you ever been in a gaming situation where you have been completely new to a game and did not understand the class that you were playing, and either had somebody lovingly come alongside of you and help explain that to you, or not so lovingly if you're playing Overwatch or League of Legends.
True.
Not that I'm trying to call out a particular game.
No, because if we're doing that, it'd be a really long list. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But have you ever had one of those situations where you were playing a role wrong, and then suddenly you discovered, oh, hey, this is how this is supposed to be done?
For sure.
Oh, absolutely. Go ahead, Sarah.
My most recent that I could think of is probably Heroes of the Storm.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Because I played that originally when it came out because I'm like, Blizzard game, yay, try it.
Yep.
And I was garbage. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
So I left it because I didn't want to spend time learning it. But then when I met Matt, he was obsessed with the game.
Yep.
So he taught me how to play. So I played Vala. And I once I
nice.
learned how to play Vala, I only play Vala.
Yes, but you're very good with
But
Vala.
I learned how to get good at Vala,
That's
and
true.
I would go to FAQs and I would watch YouTube videos on how to be good, and I was like, I would go play by myself eventually. But I definitely had to be taught the ropes because I was just sad.
No,
We
that's
need to
good.
get the three of us in a Heroes game here soon.
I
'Cause
will.
I did not realize that you played Heroes, Sarah.
Just Vala.
Oh, I just Vala, Vala all the time.
Just Vala
All
of the
about
storm.
Vala skins.
Yeah, it's so true.
That's all
It's
I
true.
want.
It's true. But no, it's fair. Yeah, I mean, over the years, I tend to just dive into things and figure it out once I get in there. Anyway, that's my personality.
Yeah, I feel like the first 10 minutes, I'll learn the rest.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like I'll just, I'll butt my head off something until I figure it out. So, yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of things over the years. I mean, we have talked in a previous episode about the first time I tanked, which was
Yeah.
interesting. But no, there have been several games. Heroes was one of those ones. Same thing where I just dove in and no sweet clue what I was doing. And of course, I played with someone when I first started. Even before Heroes, I used to play one called Infinite Crisis. It was actually the DC MOBA.
Right.
It never
Oh.
made it out of beta, which is sad.
Never heard of it.
Because it was a really good game. Well, when I first started playing that, I had this guy I knew who was kind of a troll that used to say, well, you know, because I started with like a ranged assassin because they're supposed to be one of the easiest classes to learn, and he's like, well, real people play specialists. So I ended up starting with like one of the hardest classes in the game, and it was just like face on wall constantly.
Yeah.
Until I kind of eventually got the groove of that. But it's been interesting too because I've been on the flip side of that, where like especially running in MMOs and stuff a lot,
Right.
where I'll be healing or I'll be tanking, and then I get this rogue or this mage that decides that they're the tank. That's my favorite thing ever. And especially
like,
as a healer.
I can neither heal nor tank stupid.
Right. Well, that's it. Right. Like that's what you come up against. It's like, well, I'm not even going to try to pull aggro off you. You go for it. You go. We'll format this. It'll be fine. Once your corpse is there, we'll format it and it'll be all right. So yeah, I've been on both sides of that where I've been the one going, I have no sweet clue what's going on. In games like like Infinite Crisis and even Heroes of the Storm a bit. Although I will say Heroes of the Storm had a much nicer learning curve.
Oh, yeah. It was my first MOBA, and I probably wouldn't play any other MOBA.
Yeah,
Because it's like,
that's fair.
it's the easiest and
Yeah,
it's nicest.
Absolutely. And the flip side again being especially like games like World of Warcraft or any of the MMOs with the Holy Trinity set up, right? You always get those guys that think
Good.
Yeah, that think they either know something or don't know something or whatever, and it just is always interesting to watch them die in combat. So what are you, Dave?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the most memorable experiences that I've had with that was actually playing World of Warcraft. I'd started playing actually because my older brother was playing, and I rolled the same class as he did, and so for a while there, I was just kind of, okay, whatever Johnny says, do the thing, and so for a while, I really had no understanding of how to play my class. And I had somebody that I was in a guild with that actually spent time with me and explained some of the mindset behind why you do some of the things that you do, and there was even a website that he pointed me to that had a lot of the theory crafting and stuff of how the class worked, and it really changed my understanding of, okay, there were things that I was doing that I didn't necessarily need to be doing, and there was a role that I could play, and when I was fully in that role, then I found my sweet spot. I found how to succeed within the game, and so the reason why that this conversation came up here today for you guys here, the listener, is because Matt and Sarah and I were having a conversation about Roll the Level and the future of Roll the Level. We have these conversations every once in a while where we go back and we evaluate. And I think the last couple of seasons we've done an episode at the end where we've talked about where we've been and stuff like that. This is not going to be that episode, but what we did discover in the midst of our conversation is that we had three different intentions or three different visions of where Roll the Level was going, and so let's talk about those a little bit here. Matt, when you pictured the future of Roll the Level in our conversation, what were some of the things that stood out to you as far as where what Roll the Level could be and where it could go.
Yeah, I'm going to try to condense this a little bit because when we asked this question initially, that's why it took us 2.5 hours to get here.
That's true. Yes.
But no, I mean, when that question was asked, like, where do I see Roll the Level going and what I want it to become and those types of things, the thing that has always been in my heart about, for Roll the Level is just building that community of discussion about life, God, and video games, creating a space where people could come, be it the mom that knows nothing about Call of Duty or the kid that's in their basement because they got no friends, and that is a reality, a very, very big reality for a lot of kids, and it sucks. And so for me, like, I want to create a space where people can come and get connected and essentially get pointed to Jesus. And then by extension out to a local church in their area and can get invested in and find community and love and understand the love of God for them. And so that is a very condensed version of where I thought we'd go. So,
all right, Sarah, your turn. You kind of connected with that mindset, but in a little bit of a different way.
Well, yeah, I think when I joined, like, I was such a beginner. So I kind of see it as a place just for anybody to come in and be an encouraging place to eventually, like, lead to the local church. But yeah, like, I just want people to chat about anything, but in the end game is to know Jesus in a physical sense and have an online community come back to you during the week and chat with and say how everything was going and check in on you.
Yeah. Funny story there. This episode might actually get muted and removed from playlists in the United States because you used the word endgame.
Oh my gosh.
That's good.
So I kid you not. I was going through a playlist of old messages that I'd preached, just downloading some of those things and archiving them. And one of the messages that I preached about 4 years ago was called The End Game. And when I went to access it, it was grayed out with a tag that said not available in the U.S.
Holy
and
moly.
I'm sitting there thinking, oh my word, is the reach of Disney really that far?
That's
censoring your
crazy.
content.
They're censoring my content. I don't know that that's the case, but anyway, it's just
I don't want to even discuss the legalities of that, but anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Silly.
So we've got these two different viewpoints that have some connection.
Yeah, because sorry, just to jump on that real quick, because one of the words you used, especially before we recorded, Sarah, was that idea of a safe space.
Yeah, I think the internet is somewhat lacking of a safe space.
I would agree.
So I like a Discord community where it's just chill and have friends there, and you can see who's online, see what they're playing, and see what they're listening to, and just relate to them on that kind of level.
Cool. Okay.
So, yeah.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we got that part.
No,
in,
yeah,
that was a big part of what you discussed.
I didn't have
so
notes.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yes. Yeah, that's probably part of our problem. We didn't have notes. I'm sorry.
I took notes for the other topic.
I know you did, and it'll make a fantastic opener for the next season.
True.
Keep those.
They're saved.
And for me, on the other side of all of this, which is just so funny because each one of these things really speaks to our hearts and our experiences.
It's true.
I am very pastoral. And so for me, I've looked at Roll the Level as this is kind of like a mini church for gamers because we have these conversations about life and God and video games, and we're always pouring scripture into this, and there's always this point of discipleship, a point of us helping each other along in this journey. Where we happen to have this shared affinity for video games, but it's also a platform for enriching your relationship with Jesus and going deeper with that, and maybe drawing connecting points with that. And so my vision for Roll the Level has always been this thing of like, it'd be so cool if this was a church. But then there's that that interesting part of this where the digital space has people all over the world connected to things like this. And how do you give people relational interaction, which the gospel is very relational. Christianity is very relational, highly relational. I would argue that it can't exist in a vacuum. But but I've viewed it as this place of like it's a springboard of discipleship that's kind of like a microcosm of the church, but with the intention also of pointing people to local churches as well. So when we were talking about this morning, it was just really kind of funny because each of us, well, our views are not incongruent or our goals are not incongruent with others. It's the difference between a flashlight and a laser.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both have their merit, but they're used for very different things. And so in the conversation about the different roles and different times where you've picked up a role but you've been trying to force it into something else, I think that can be kind of frustrating sometimes.
Oh, absolutely.
When you hit a point where like there's a conflict of values, or there's a differing of value. I shouldn't say a conflict, but a differing in values, or a differing in vision and direction. Or people are pulling things in different directions. Unfortunately, we haven't hit that point where
goodness, no.
Where Sarah's like, we gotta go this direction, and Matt's like, okay,
yes, because that is my typical response to most things.
Yeah. No, that's more like my typical response.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
But the funny thing is, and the thing that I appreciate and I love so much about you guys is that even in the midst of our difference in vision, or our difference in perspective, the spirit is the same behind all of them.
Absolutely.
In two fronts, like big S spirit and little S spirit. The little S spirit, behind this, or the heart behind it, is that we have a desire to have conversations about life, God, and video games with anyone. It's in our DNA. It's why this thing began, and it's why it's one of the reasons why we're friends.
It's true. It's true.
Because our relationship is kind of predicated on those conversations. But the big S spirit behind this is God's Holy Spirit. And in 1 Corinthians 12, there's this whole chapter talks about the difference in gifts and the unity that there is in the church as an organism that functions as a body. And Paul writes to this church now to each one, the manifestation or the revelation of God's Spirit at work in them is given for the common good. To one, there's given the spirit of a message of wisdom, to another, a message of knowledge by the means of the same Spirit, to another, faith by the same Spirit, to another, gifts of healing by that one Spirit, to another, miraculous power, to another, prophecy, to another, distinguishing between spirits, to another, speaking in different kinds of languages, to another, still interpreting those languages, and all the work of one and the same Spirit, and he distributes them to each one just as he determines. Just as a body, though one, has many parts, but all its parts form one body, so it is in Christ. And then if you scroll down, like there's this conversation of like, I can't say to Matt, like, your vision is garbage. We don't need your vision. We don't need, we don't need that. Or, you can't say to Sarah, like, your vision is trash. Or you can't say to me, like, that's hot garbage. What are you even thinking? No, but there's a shared spirit that we have in this, but we're all coming at this from a place of unity. And that was kind of the point of our conversation before we started recording, was like, hey, what are you guys seeing for the future? And are those things unified? Okay, so they're unified under the singular Spirit, both big S and little s, and there. But then we come down to the bottom here, which if you ever wonder why this happens, when you can get three people in the same room that have the same vision or that have the same heart for something, but have different visions of it, it's because we're all created differently. We're all wired differently. And at the end of this passage, Paul writes, now you are the body of Christ, and each one of you is a different part of it. And God has placed in the church, first of all, apostles, second prophets, third teachers, then miracles, then gifts of healings, of helps, of guidance, of different kinds of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all have the gift of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? No. These are kind of rhetorical questions.
Yeah.
And he says, now eagerly desire the greater gifts, and I will show you the most excellent way. And then he gets into 1 Corinthians 13, which is all about love and all about these things being expressions of the love of God. And so in that, like, I don't know for you guys, but for me, like, I always find that it's freeing to come back to those existential questions or those why questions.
Yeah.
When talking about important things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's what spurred on this conversation in the first place this morning was the why questions, like, why are we doing this thing? Which is important because, it's interesting. Like, I think humans are built for work. Like, we're built to do things. Like, it's just how we are. Like,
Since the beginning.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we do the things. But you can be incredibly busy and working incredibly hard. Yeah. And still feel very unfulfilled and feel without purpose. Because we can get so caught up doing the thing that we forget why we're doing the thing. And so then we get pulled off in other directions, and all these different ideas and things come up, and it is so important to be able to take that step back. And that is a constant tension between stepping back and looking at the big picture and stepping in and working on the little bits that lead to the big picture, right?
Yeah. Matt, you had said something before about, cause you're an ideas guy. You're a really, really good ideas guy. You have like a lot of great ideas that fire around in your head. Well, I should say you have a lot of ideas that fire around in your head.
Exactly. I was going to
Some
say,
of them
to
are
clarify,
great. Some of them are great.
Yeah.
Riding a modified shopping cart down a hill was not a good idea, but I wasn't around to stop that one.
It was cool though. I mean,
I saw the scars afterwards.
Yeah, until the person in the cart fell out of the cart and tore all of the muscly tissue in their arm, which arguably did actually look really neat, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, the road rash was real.
Or
anyway.
doubling down on the scooter down that hill. Remember that time we did
that?
That was a fun idea. It wasn't good, but it was fun. And for the record, it worked really well until we came to the corner and tried to jump a curb.
Well, there was a trash can there, though. There's a trash can, so...
Yeah, that's true. But anyway, yeah. So, yes, some of my ideas are good. Some are just interesting.
I'm not following.
No, but you had a really interesting quote about ideas.
Yeah. I'm gonna actually paraphrase it because I can't remember the exact quote. But essentially, the quote or the meaning of the quote was, the reality is there will always be more good ideas than there are time to execute them.
Yeah.
And so we have to be intentional about the ideas we're choosing to execute. And it ties back to actually what the staffing at my church are going through right now, because we're in this process of evaluating what are the most important things essentially. But it's true. Like, there are always incredible ideas. There's always great ideas floating around. Like, man, this head, if I could empty it of ideas for a day, it'd be great. Yeah. But not all of them will fulfill the purposes that we've set out to do, right?
Yeah.
In life, be it your job, be it your creative pursuits, whatever it is. Not every idea is going to fulfill that. And so there is a need to be intentional about the things we choose to invest our time in, which is an interesting tension. Because sometimes you try things because you think it's on task, and then you come to the end of it and go, nope, that didn't work at all.
I don't know. It kind of reminds me of the Bible study I'm leading now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm doing so much reading and studying, and it's like... I had to step back and be like, what am I doing this for? Like, am I doing this to like learn more and grow deeper? Or am I just doing this to be like a scholarly and know more than somebody else? So I stepped back and I'm like, no, I'm doing this to encourage other people. And I had to definitely step back and think that of my intentionality of doing this course.
Yeah. Which, just as a sidebar, how cool is it that Sarah's leading a Bible study?
I love that.
Right? I just want to put that out there.
That.
Like,
I didn't know how much work it'd be.
I'm so proud of you, Sarah.
It's so good.
I was telling Matt that it's a New Testament study.
It's like a survey of the whole New Testament.
Oh. Yeah, it's about like getting deeper and culturally deeper.
Nice.
So I learned yesterday. I was reading about Alexander the Greek. Alexander the Great. Sorry,
Also,
and I was like,
It's
same
also
thing.
Greek,
But I
arguably.
was learning, reading biographies and stuff on him, and I'm like, I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey this week, and I'm like, I understand so much more in Assassin's Creed Odyssey
so
now.
much insight gained.
Like, so it was just fun learning that stuff too, and how it all just melts together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now,
Nice.
if Cassandra comes up, that's the name of the gal.
It is her.
Yeah.
She comes up in your Bible study. That might be a little bit interesting.
Nobody else
no.
plays Assassin's Creed.
Bummer.
They're all Call
Bummer.
of Duty people.
That's fair.
Oh, that is fair. But yeah, I think that's really cool. And Sarah, you touch on a really good. You guys both touched on some really good things there that I want to just double back to. Sarah, you had mentioned even examining your own motivation for why you do the thing. Like
I thought it was good. It's a Bible study. What can go wrong?
Exactly. Right. That's such a great question to ask, especially when you're doing something like that. Like, am I doing it just because, like, oh my word, it needs to be done? Are you doing it because, like, you're trying to prove something to somebody, or are you doing it because, like, hey, this is genuinely a way that God has designed me? One of the things that I really appreciate about you, Sarah, is you're the type of person that you're like, I want to know all the things. Like, you're such a completionist.
It is
that,
a blessing
like,
and a curse.
Yeah, but there's a gift in that, though. That's a gift that you have.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things where, like, in this list of hey, God has given some to be like this type of role. God has specifically created you for it. That's your sweet spot.
Yeah, you should see my Bible study notes. Whew. They're
I'd
ridiculously long
love to
because I
see-
write so many notes because I need to know everything.
She's got ledgers, man. She's
Yeah,
got
it is
ledgers.
sad. There's a
No
table of
jokes.
contents and everything.
No
Not
jokes.
sad at all. That's so good. That's so good. But then, Matt, you also said that there were there are no shortage of good ideas, but there's a shortage of time. And this is the point I think I want to close on.
Yeah.
Is that there really are no shortage of good things. Whether it's good ideas or good things to be involved in. But one of the questions that you have to ask yourself is, how has God wired you? What are the gifts that God has placed in you? What is the purpose that God has created you for? Because we all have a mission, right? We all have a mission, but we all have a different set of life circumstances that we find ourselves in, and experiences and professions and life situations or stages. Like, you guys are both parents. That's awesome. You guys have that as part of your ministry and a part of your mission. I don't. So that's part of my mission.
Yeah,
That's part of my, I do have I have a dog, so that's part of this is part of my mission. Though honestly, you would be amazed, and maybe you wouldn't be because you're parents and you've had babies and people want to stop and see babies. But I imagine that if people like petted your child at 3 years old, that you'd probably be a little bit wigged out about that.
Yeah, that's
Slightly.
a fair point.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but people can still do that with my dog, and
That's a fair point.
it's a point of conversation. But anyway, there are no shortage of good things. There are no shortage of good ideas. But the thing that we need to be wise about or be prayerful about is what is going to be the most God-honoring way to use the way that God has created you and those passions that He's placed within you.
Yeah.
And find that, discover that, because honestly, like, it can change. So reevaluate that. Always come back to those questions of, who has God created me to be? And what has He created me to do? And are the things that I'm doing right now, the ways that I'm investing in my time, my talents, and my energy, and all that jazz, are those things fulfilling those? And if not, then maybe you need to take a step back from something.
Yeah.
Maybe in your involvement in things, like, maybe you need to take a step back and evaluate that, and so that you can be a little bit more of that laser than the fog light.
Yeah.
There are times and places, there are seasons that we'll all go through where it's like, okay, it's bootstrap time, and it's just time to just strap up and let's do this thing and get it done. But then there are other times where it's really, really important for us to remember, hey, you know what? we function as a body. We don't function alone, and we don't function in a vacuum. And we need to be okay releasing to other people, and to helping to equip other people and raise them up along with us, to help them to see, like, hey, this is where your gifting is, and this is where you can thrive, and that's it's a great place to be in when you can live in that space. But I don't know if you guys have any closing comments on any of that stuff before we wrap up here.
No, I'm good, man. I think you summarized quite nicely. So
Yeah,
it's good. So
same.
thank you.
All righty. Well, hey, we're going to take a week or so off here for the next couple of weeks for Roll the Level. But make sure that you stay in touch with us on Twitter at Roll the Level. I believe we still have some live stream things that are going to be going on.
Yep.
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
We finally
Tuesday
nailed
and-
down some dates that work properly.
Tuesday and Wednesday. You might even see me on a stream sometime.
I hope
here
so.
In the near future. So make sure you connect with us on Facebook. It
Feels like
pretty
that
much-
most days, honestly.
It feels like that most days. Connect with us on Facebook, or follow us on Twitter at Roll the Level. We'd love to hear from you and hear your part of the conversation. What has God designed you for, and how can we help you to identify some of those things? Make sure you reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. We'll see you next time on Roll the Level.